So, My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. Okay, here's the deal with this book. I never in a million years thought I would actually pick this book up, completely based on the hideous cover art. This cover, who thought that this cover looked good? It doesn't. To me, it's so tacky, it's so unbelievably just ugly. And it just looks like something you would find in a tacky grandmother's living room, just hanging on the wall, and it's so horrible to me. Although I have to say that now that I have read the book and, spoiler alert, loved it dearly, like 5 stars, now I sort of look at the cover and I think of it differently, which really, that goes to show you just how much this book means to me and meant to me, that it actually transformed my first impression of the awful cover. I still think it's horrible, but now it sort of makes sense. So here's my review, and more than a review, this is a glowing recommendation for My Brilliant Friend. This is the first book in the Neapolitan novels by Elena Ferrante, which is a pseudonym for an author, an Italian author. We don't know if they're a female or a male author. I personally feel it's probably female, but I could be wrong. But anyway, Elena Ferrante has written a great depiction of childhood and a great depiction of growing up, in my opinion. This is maybe not the most exciting book, although it is at the same time relentlessly propulsive, and I thought it was addictive, although it doesn't really have a lot of action the way that, action-packed books make you feel. It's weird because this book sort of feels like a very slow kind of, not meandering, but like it has a meditative sort of like someone's telling you a story kind of vibe to it. But at the same time, it feels relentless and fierce and emotional, and you just keep reading. And also, it's really, really good that the chapters are very short. The book is broken up into 2 different sections, one of them childhood, the other one adolescence, and each section has many, many, many chapters, which are very easy to digest, and you can read it very quickly. I read this book in like 5 or 6 days, but if my schedule hadn't been quite so busy, I would probably, I would have been able to read it in maybe like 3 days. It's that easy and fast-paced. So my favorite section of the book was the first one, which is childhood. I thought Elena Ferrante conjured up one of the best depictions of growing up and childhood experiences that I have ever read. I'm gonna say that Elena Ferrante is a woman, so she is incredible. I mean, her language, the way that she formally constructs the sentences, the paragraphs, and the dialogue, the descriptions, and how she narrates certain events with that kind of storytelling feel to it, really, really served this particular story wonderfully well. I think childhood is very hard to get right in books. Sometimes childhood can be incredibly idealized or romanticized. Sometimes it can feel very cartoonish, but here I think Elena Ferrante did a wonderful job because childhood is depicted in a way that really, this book is a great example of what I call psychoanalytical literature. That's a term that I sort of have in my mind for books that really capture what Sigmund Freud calls the infantile, the origins of our personality, and how in childhood things are not really pretty. Childhood is brutal. Childhood is, by definition, a very traumatic prolonged experience of traumatic experiences, in the sense that you as a child, you cannot really process anything or everything around you. You cannot really process sexuality or aggression, even though they are present. So you are, as a child, not sufficiently equipped to deal with the external and internal world that you inhabit. And I think that is very true. I think Sigmund Freud was completely right, and this book just completely made me think of Freud, because childhood is depicted in here. I think I've said the word depicted like 1,000 times already, but childhood in here was depicted so wonderfully well. Sexuality, aggression, that kind of very particular fear that you feel as a child, that very strange, particular anxiety and anguish and hurt, which is very mysterious, that you feel as a child. Because when we grow older, as we grow older, all of those traumatic, weird childhood experiences have to be repressed in order to, keep functioning and just to grow up. So I really, really think this is a great depiction of that. Some other things that I loved about this book were the characters. Elena Greco is our protagonist, and she's a great character as a vessel, as a point of view from which we get to see all of the other characters and events, because this is a book that is written in first-person narrative. But then we have the character of Lila. Lila or Lila, it's pronounced Lila, but my stupid brain just reads that word and immediately pronounces it Lila in my head. So I'm gonna say Lila. Lila is Elena's best friend, and she is a fascinating character. She is completely insane. She has a borderline personality structure kind of disorder, a borderline disorder. She's incredibly pathological, and we get to see her insanity, which is also incredibly charming and charismatic and fascinating. I mean, Lila, whose complete name is Rafaela Cerullo, Lila is such a great character, like one of the most fascinating, interesting, complex, bizarre, enigmatic characters that I have read in quite some time. And that's really my most important takeaway from this book was the character of Lila. I mean, she is a character that is so well drawn in here. You never feel like you actually understand her. Sometimes you just love her. Sometimes you want to kill her. And it's really wonderful how Elena Ferrante sort of creates the character of Lila, looking at Lila from different characters' perspectives and through different events that really, they reveal how enigmatic Lila is and how impenetrable, how inaccessible she is as a character, as a person. So I cannot wait to see where the story goes from here. The book ends in not a cliffhanger, but in a very sort of elegant, suspenseful note that immediately makes me want to pick up the second book in the series, and I probably will. And I really want to see what happens to these characters, especially because something else that this book does wonderfully is there's a prologue. And the prologue is just very simple and absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. It makes you excited and intrigued, and you just want to know what's going to happen. You really want to see where this story is going. So this book received 5 stars from me, and that is a very, 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 very difficult rating for me to give to a book. Usually 4 stars to me is the mark of a really enjoyable, great book. So that goes to show you just how much I adored this book, just the storytelling nature of this book. It feels like mythical in a way. It feels like a legend or like a folk tale. It feels like someone is telling you their story, which is what it's supposed to feel like, and it does. So it's an incredible novel, and there's so many beautiful passages in here, but I'm just gonna read out loud a small section for you because that it's just a sample of what I adored. So this is just a very small fragment from My Brilliant Friend, and it goes like this. I saw that her eyes narrowed, as when she tried to grasp something fleeting. She said in dialect, "You still waste time with those things, Lenu? We are flying over a ball of fire. The part that has cooled floats on the lava. On that part we construct the buildings, the bridges, and the streets, and every so often the lava comes out of Vesuvius or causes an earthquake that destroys everything. There are microbes everywhere that make us sick and die. There are wars. There is a poverty that makes us all cruel. Every second something might happen that will cause you such suffering that you'll never have enough tears. And what are you doing? A theology course in which you struggle to understand what the Holy Spirit is? Forget it. It was the devil who invented the world, not the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Do you want to see the string of pearls that Stefano gave me?" That was how she talked, more or less confusing me, and not only in a situation like that, but more and more often, until that tone became established, became her way of standing up to me. If I said something about the Holy Trinity, she, with a few harried but good-humored remarks, cut off any possible conversation and went on to show me Stefano's presents, the engagement ring, the necklace, a new dress, a hat, while the things that I loved, that made me shine in front of the teachers so that they considered me clever, slumped in a corner, deprived of their meaning. I let go of ideas, books. I went on to admire all those gifts that contrasted with the humble house of Fernando the shoemaker. I tried on the dresses and the jewelry. I almost immediately noticed that they would never suit me as they did her, and I was depressed. My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. If you are anything like me, even if you hate this cover like I did or like I do, you have to try this book out. It's wonderful. Thanks for watching.